It was 3:17 in the morning when she assumed I was asleep. I stayed perfectly still, my back turned toward her, keeping my breathing slow and even. The door gave a faint creak, followed by the muted sound of footsteps pressing into the carpet. Then came the soft thump of heels being slipped off, careful and deliberate. Like a teenager sneaking in after curfew, a cloud of unfamiliar cologne clung to her skin, the kind I'd never worn. She moved like someone hiding, convinced the darkness could cover the stains of guilt she carried. But I wasn't asleep. I hadn't been in a long time. Every suspicious change in her schedule, every urgent late meeting, every vague excuse had stacked into a wall of certainty. She eased herself into bed, her weight dip in the mattress beside me, letting out a satisfied sigh as though the night had been exhausting in all the right ways. And that was the moment I knew completely. Not only that she'd been lying, but that she felt no shame. She thought my silence was ignorance. She believed she could keep spinning the same stories forever. She didn't know I had already uncovered everything. Bank statements filled with charges at places she swore she'd never visited. A second phone hidden away. Even a hotel booking under an alias. A name she once used when we were still falling for each other. That was the part that cut the deepest. The same little tricks she had once used to why me over were now being used to deceive me. I didn't lash out that night. I didn't demand answers. Instead, I waited because sometimes a quiet is sharper than any shouted accusation. That evening, while she was off what she claimed was a last-minute networking dinner, I prepared my parting move. I cleared out my side of the closet. Clothes, shoes, even the wedding picture she insisted always stay in the middle. My side of the bed was stripped bare. The dresser drawers were empty. The safe was cleared. My name disappeared from the lease. The bills, even a Netflix account. And then there was the envelope. It sat on her pillow, waiting for the moment she turned to kiss me goodnight. Inside were divorce papers already signed and dated, along with a single line scrawled in thick black ink. I hope he was worth it. I didn't stay to see her find it. Instead, I parked my car down the street, watching as the bedroom light flickered on minutes later. The blinds were never quite shut, and I can make out her figure frozen beside the bed. I imagine her hand brushing the envelope, her shoulders stiffening, her breath catching in her throat. I didn't need to see her face. I'd already pictured 100 times the shock, the sudden weight of realization. The first moment she truly understood, I wasn't as oblivious as she believed. Her calls started before dawn, 30 in total. The voicemails were all the same, panicked disbelief. The sharp edge of desperation wrapped in a voice that once felt like home. I didn't respond. I wouldn't give her the comfort of a fight. I had spent too long pouring myself into someone who drained me every night. Instead, I checked into a quiet guest house on the edge of town. The owner handed me the keys with a warm smile, asking no questions. The first morning there, I woke without the weight of suspicion pressing against me. I made coffee, sat by the window, and watched the sun rise over a world where I was no longer bound to her lies. Freedom came with its own kind of ache. Walking away is never clean. That night, I cried. I shouted into a pillow. I mourned not just a marriage, but the version of myself that had stayed too long. Still in the middle of that pain, I felt something unshakable. I had chosen truth, and that was worth the grief. 2 weeks passed without a single word from me. Friend began to reach out, unsure what had happened. My aunt was always the same. Ask her. Word traveled quickly. She wouldn't confess the betrayal, but she made sure everyone knew how I had suddenly left. How cold I'd become, as if she'd expected me to stay and swallow her lies night after night. Then one morning I opened the cabin door, and there she was, no makeup, hair tied back, eyes swollen from sleeplessness. She looked at me the way you look at someone you once knew in another life, uncertain, aching, desperate for something familiar. "Please," she whispered. "Can we talk?" I stepped aside, not out of pity, but for closure. She walked in slowly, her gaze scanning the bare wooden walls. We sat across from each other. She began to explain how it wasn't supposed to happen, how she felt something missing inside herself, how the other man made her feel alive in ways she thought I Couldn't I listened without interrupting when her voice broke and her eyes filled with tears. I finally spoke the only 7 words I had rehearsed since the night I knew. You lost me the moment you lied. The room went still. She reached for my hand the same way she once reached for forgiveness. But I didn't move. I let her fingers hover in the empty space between us, just like all the promises she'd left unfulfilled. Then I stood, walked to the door, and held it open. Goodbye, I said. She didn't plead. She just stepped out into the cold morning, finally beginning to understand what it meant to have nothing left to hold on.